The brass nameplate on the mahogany desk gleamed under the fluorescent lights of the conference room. Claire Blackwood, CEO, Culinary Ventures International. The name felt foreign on my tongue even after all these years, but it was the armor I had worn to claw my way back from the grave my own family had dug for me. 12 years ago, I was Emma Sterling, youngest daughter of the Sterling restaurant empire, heir to a fortune built on my grandmother's secret recipes and my grandfather's relentless ambition. Today, I was about to walk into the emergency board meeting that would strip my family of everything they had stolen from me. The irony wasn't lost on me that we were meeting in the same conference room where they had voted me out 12 years ago, where my own father had looked me in the eye and called me a thief, a liar, a disgrace to the Sterling name, where my brother James had seconded the motion to remove me from the board while my sister Catherine sat in silence, her perfectly manicured hands folded in her lap like she was praying. They thought they had buried me that night. In a way, they had. Emma Sterling died in that room, killed by betrayal and greed. But from her ashes rose someone stronger, someone who understood that mercy was a luxury I could no longer afford. I smoothed my black Armani suit and checked my reflection in the conference room's glass wall. My auburn hair was pulled back in a severe chignon, my makeup flawless, my expression cold as winter steel. The scared 22-year-old who had begged her family to believe her was gone. In her place stood a woman who had spent 12 years learning that trust was a weakness and revenge was a dish best served with a side of complete financial ruin. The elevator chimed, and I heard their voices in the hallway. My pulse remained steady as I listened to my family's familiar cadences, now tinged with the panic of people who had just discovered their empire was crumbling beneath their feet. The door opened, and they filed in like mourners at their own funeral. My father, Robert Sterling, looked every one of his 71 years. His once commanding presence had diminished, his shoulders stooped under the weight of stress and age. His silver hair was thinner now, his face gaunt. The man who had built a restaurant empire from nothing looked like he was staring into the abyss. Behind him came James, my older brother, his face flushed with anger and confusion. At 38, he had inherited our father's ambition but none of his business acumen. He had run the company into the ground through a combination of poor decisions and reckless expansion, never bothering to understand that success required more than a famous last name. Catherine entered last, and I felt a familiar twist in my chest at the sight of her. My twin sister, identical in every way except the choices that had defined us. Her dark hair was styled in the same elegant waves she had favored since college, her navy dress expensive, but conservative. She had always been the diplomat, the peacekeeper, the one who tried to smooth over the rough edges of our family's dysfunction. Today, she looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. They took their seats around the table, none of them recognizing the woman sitting at the head. Why would they? Emma Sterling had been weak, trusting, naive enough to believe that family meant something more than quarterly profits. Claire Blackwood was none of those things. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," I began, my voice carrying the authority I had spent years cultivating. "I know this has been a difficult time for Sterling restaurants, with the recent financial troubles and the foreclosure notices." My father's jaw tightened. "Ms. Blackwood, while we appreciate your interest in our company, I'm not sure what Culinary Ventures International can do for us that our current advisors haven't already tried." I smiled, the expression as sharp as broken glass. "Oh, but Mr. Sterling, I think you'll find my offer quite generous. You see, I'm not here to advise you. I'm here to inform you that as of this morning, Culinary Ventures International has purchased all outstanding debts associated with Sterling restaurants. The bank notes, the supplier agreements, the real estate mortgages, every single financial obligation your company has incurred over the past 5 years." The color drained from James's face. "That's impossible. We would have been notified." "Check your email," I interrupted, sliding 3 identical folders across the table. "You'll find all the documentation there. Perfectly legal, perfectly binding. Your family's restaurant empire now belongs to me." Catherine opened her folder with trembling fingers, her eyes scanning the legal documents with growing horror. "This can't be right. The purchase price, it's nearly $200 million. Who has that kind of money? Someone who spent 12 years building it, I replied, letting the words hang in the air like smoke. Someone who learned that the restaurant business is about more than pretty dining rooms and celebrity chefs. Someone who understood that in this industry, you either eat or get eaten. My father was staring at me now, something flickering in his pale blue eyes. Recognition, maybe, or just the desperate hope of a drowning man seeing a lifeline. There's something familiar about you, Ms. Blackwood. Have we met before? I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment I had dreamed of for over a decade. We have, actually, though I looked quite different the last time we shared this room. I was younger then, more naive. I believed that family loyalty meant something. I believed that blood was thicker than greed. James was shuffling through his papers frantically. Wait. These documents show that you've been buying our debt for years. Shell companies, offshore accounts, who the hell are you? I stood slowly, walking to the window that overlooked the Chicago skyline. In the distance, I could see the flagship Sterling restaurant, the one that had started it all. My grandmother's dream, built from nothing but determination and a collection of handwritten recipes. Soon, it would be mine again. My name is Claire Blackwood, I said without turning around. But 12 years ago, you knew me by a different name. Back then, I was Emma Sterling, the daughter you accused of embezzling from the family business. The daughter you disowned without proof, without trial, without so much as the benefit of the doubt. The silence behind me was deafening. I turned around to see three faces frozen in shock, disbelief, and something that might have been shame if any of them were still capable of feeling it. Catherine was the first to speak, her voice barely a whisper. Emma? But you're dead. The accident, the car in the river. There was no accident, I said, returning to my seat with the predatory grace of a shark circling wounded prey. There was only a scared young woman who realized that her own family would rather destroy her than admit they were wrong. So I did what you wanted me to do. I disappeared. My father's hands were shaking now. The embezzlement charges, the missing money, if you're alive, then you destroyed an innocent person, I finished. $60,000 went missing from the company accounts, and you immediately assumed it was me. Your youngest daughter, who had been working 80-hour weeks to prove herself worthy of the Sterling name. You never investigated. You never questioned. You just pointed your finger and watched me burn. James had gone completely white. But the evidence was fabricated, I said calmly. By someone who knew our computer systems, our security codes, our banking procedures. Someone who had access to everything and the motivation to frame me. Someone who wanted me gone so badly that they were willing to steal from our own family to make it happen. I let my eyes settle on Catherine and watched as understanding dawned on her face like a slow sunrise. Her perfectly composed mask cracked, and for a moment, I saw the terrified 22-year-old who had sat in this same chair 12 years ago, watching her sister's life implode. It was you, I said softly. You took the money. You altered the records. You let me take the fall for your gambling debts and your shopping addiction and your desperate need to be more than just the other Sterling daughter. Catherine's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Emma, I never meant for it to go that far. I thought Dad would just give you a warning, maybe make you pay it back. I never thought he would. Disown me? Call me a criminal? Freeze my trust fund and ban me from every property we owned. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What exactly did you think would happen, Catherine? That I would just take the blame and smile while you spent our family's money on designer clothes and high-stakes poker games? My father was staring at Catherine with the same look of betrayal that he had once reserved for me. Catherine, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't frame your own sister. But Catherine couldn't speak. The tears were flowing freely now, mascara streaking down her cheeks like black rain. She had always been the prettier twin, the charming one, the one who could talk her way out of any situation. But there was no talking her way out of this. I have documentation, I continued, pulling a thick file from my briefcase. Bank records, casino receipts, credit card statements. All of it pointing to a systematic pattern of theft that began 6 months before I was accused. I also have witness statements from 3 of your gambling associates who remember you bragging about having access to family money that no one would miss. I slid the file across the table to my father. I've had this evidence for 10 years. I could have come forward at any time, could have cleared my name and destroyed Catherine's. But I wanted something more than vindication. I wanted justice. James was reading over my father's shoulder, his face growing paler with each page. Jesus Christ, Catherine. You stole from us. You let us think Emma was a thief for 12 years. I'm sorry, Catherine whispered, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry, Emma. I was young and stupid and scared, and I thought I could fix it before anyone noticed. But then Dad called that board meeting, and everything happened so fast. So you stayed quiet, I said. You watched me beg for mercy, watched me cry, and plead for someone to believe me, and you said nothing. You let me walk out of this building with nothing but the clothes on my back and the knowledge that my own family thought I was a criminal. I stood up again, pacing to the window as the memories flooded back. That night 12 years ago, driving aimlessly through Chicago in a rental car, too numb to cry, too devastated to think clearly. I had parked by the lake and stared at the dark water, wondering if everyone would be better off if Emma Sterling just disappeared forever. In the end, that's exactly what I did. I drove to Detroit that night. I said, my back still to them. Sold my car, bought a bus ticket to Seattle, paid cash for everything. I had saved some money in a personal account they couldn't touch, enough to start over if I was careful. I got a job washing dishes in a diner, rented a room above a laundromat, and began the long process of becoming someone else. The room was so quiet I could hear the tick of the antique clock on the wall, the same clock that had counted down the minutes of my destruction 12 years ago. It took 2 years to get the documentation I needed. Birth certificate, social security number, employment history. Claire Blackwood was born in a filing cabinet in Portland, Oregon, and she was everything Emma Sterling had failed to be. Smart, ruthless, unwilling to trust anyone with her heart or her future. I turned back to face them, and I could see the devastation in their eyes. They were finally understanding the magnitude of what they had lost, what they had thrown away for the sake of maintaining their precious family reputation. I started small. I continued. Hostess at a family restaurant, then waitress, then assistant manager. I learned the business from the ground up, the way Grandma Sterling did before any of us were born. I worked 18-hour days, saved every penny, and studied every aspect of restaurant management until I could run a kitchen with my eyes closed. My father was crying now, silent tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. Emma, sweetheart, if we had known, you would have what? Apologized? Asked me to come home? Pretended that 12 years of believing I was a thief could be erased with a family dinner? I shook my head. It's too late for that, Dad. Emma Sterling died the night you voted me out of this room. I'm Claire Blackwood now, and Claire Blackwood doesn't forgive. I returned to my seat and opened another folder, this one containing the real reason for today's meeting. Which brings us to the terms of the acquisition. Sterling Restaurants will be dissolved as a corporate entity. The buildings will be sold, the staff terminated, the recipes and branding retired permanently. The Sterling name will disappear from the restaurant industry forever. James shot to his feet, his face flushed with anger. You can't do this. This company is our legacy, our heritage. Grandma and Grandpa built this from nothing. And you ran it into the ground through incompetence and greed. I replied calmly. Under your leadership, Sterling Restaurants went from industry leader to bankruptcy court in less than 5 years. You expanded too fast, ignored quality control, and treated your employees like disposable assets. You destroyed everything our grandparents built, and you did it while counting the profits from framing your own sister. Catherine looked up from her tear-stained papers. What about the employees? There are over 3,000 people who work for Sterling Restaurants. They have families, mortgages. They'll be offered positions with Culinary Ventures International, assuming they meet our standards, I said. Unlike Sterling Restaurants, my company actually values its workforce. We offer competitive salaries, comprehensive benefits, and opportunities for advancement based on merit rather than family connections. My father was staring at the conference table as if it held the answers to questions he was afraid to ask. What happened to the car, Emma? The one they found in the river? The police said. I hired someone to stage the accident, I admitted. A former stuntman who owed me a favor. We drove the car to a remote section of the Chicago River, rigged it to look like it had crashed through the guardrail, and made sure it sank in deep water, where the current would carry it downstream. The police found it 3 days later, no body inside, and concluded that I had either drowned and been swept away or managed to escape and was hiding somewhere. I pulled out a newspaper clipping from 12 years ago, yellowed with age. Sterling heiress presumed dead after mysterious car crash. They ran it on the front page of the business section. There was even a photo of you, Dad, looking appropriately grief-stricken at what you called a tragic end to a troubled young woman's life. He winced as if I had slapped him. We mourned you, Emma. We held a memorial service, set up a scholarship in your name. You held a publicity event, I corrected. A chance to play the grieving family while secretly celebrating that your embarrassing youngest daughter was no longer around to tarnish the sterling reputation. I watched the whole thing from across the street, disguised behind sunglasses and a black wig. The pain in his eyes was almost enough to make me feel sorry for him. Almost. But 12 years of carefully nursed rage doesn't disappear just because the target of your anger finally understands what they've lost. I built Culinary Ventures International with one goal in mind, I continued. To become powerful enough to destroy you the same way you destroyed me. Every restaurant I opened, every employee I hired, every dollar I earned was a step closer to this moment. This room, this table, this conversation. I stood and walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the brass handle. You have 30 days to vacate all Sterling restaurant properties. After that, security will escort you out, and the locks will be changed. Your personal offices will be cleared by the end of the week, and any company assets in your possession will be inventoried and reclaimed. Catherine looked up at me with desperate eyes. Emma, please. I know I can never make up for what I did, but there has to be some way to fix this. Some way to save the family business. I studied her face, searching for any trace of the sister I had once loved more than life itself. The twin who had shared my secrets, my dreams, my deepest fears. The other half of my soul, before she chose money over loyalty and let me burn for her crimes. There was, I said softly. 12 years ago, there was a way to fix everything. All you had to do was tell the truth. All you had to do was stand up in this room and admit what you had done. All you had to do was choose your sister over your own cowardice. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway, then looked back one final time at the 3 people who had taught me that family was just another word for disappointment. The Sterling name dies today, I said. Emma Sterling died 12 years ago, and Claire Blackwood doesn't believe in resurrection. At least, not for everyone. As I walked toward the elevator, I could hear Catherine sobbing behind me, her cries echoing through the hallway like the ghost of the sister I used to be. But I didn't look back. I had spent 12 years learning not to look back, and I wasn't about to start now. The elevator doors closed with a soft chime, and I caught my reflection in the polished steel. Claire Blackwood stared back at me, successful and ruthless and completely alone. It was exactly what I had wanted, exactly what I had worked for. So, why did victory taste so much like ashes in my mouth? The answer would have to wait. I had a restaurant empire to dismantle, and Emma Sterling's ghost was finally going to rest.